Hello, Rita.
Ah,
It's a real pleasure to be here with you.
again, yeah.
Um, we are here to talk about The Sound of the Shaking Earth, your first movie. Um, well, I would like to ask you something that happens to me when I see your films. I get the feeling that they are somehow made up by the dialogue between cinema and other arts. Like if cinema took ideas from theater or literature or poetry or even opera. What do you think about this? Where do your movies come from?
Isn't that a little? Isn't that a bit what happens always when you make a film? I think uh, it's not only me. I mean, I think everyone who makes a film has his own tastes and preferences and references. So for me, all is mixed. I mean, life with the things I like, paintings and the theater and opera and music, and so it's all my life. So it's impossible to leave it aside. So maybe some people do it more in a more expressive way, but I believe everyone who wants to do something or to fabricate something has a lot of stuff to talk about or to. Doesn't mean at all that while I'm doing the film, or let's say if I'm on the set, I'm not thinking of anything special or a certain painting or a certain moment in the film I like, or it's not really direct, but obviously everything is floating around. Because when I tried and I tried it once to like do as someone has done. I liked it so much. It was a Bergman film with a certain technique movement of the camera, and I said it's genius. And I tried to profit that tool and make it work on my film. It did not work. So don't try to do like the others because for me it doesn't work. And it's obvious that if I'm in love with Caravaggio or Tiepolo, or I don't have a painting on my head, otherwise I think I will freeze. So
Yes, but I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that in your movies, especially, there is like a special sense on this. I mean, for example, there is another thing that for me is interesting in your movies. It is that there is like a strange sense of time. I mean, like if there would be some kind of anachronism. I mean, you have some signs
sorry, you have to.
that, there is like some kind of anachronism because
Okay.
you have like you work with some signs from different historical times, but it's different it's difficult to know in which time we are. I don't know if,
Yeah, but
uh,
that's really true. Even now, it's different. It's very difficult to know
yeah.
in what time we are at. Sometimes I have the feeling like I'm in a biblical epoch with all the present thing. It's very time. I mean, cinema is all about time, you know.
Yes.
So, and time in cinema is also fake because you
Mm-hmm.
say it's been 1 year, maybe it's in film, it's 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting how the length of the duration of scenes. I'm never exactly sure. It's always an intuition. And sometimes I even tried, not in the Som da Terra Tremer, but in other films, to cut it a little bit. Don't make it last too long, and maybe it's not necessary. And I try, and finally I realize when I take those kind of decisions, it doesn't work for me. So I need maybe more time. So it's really when you are comfortable with time, and then cut. The time, it's really part of a cinematographic language.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It's an art that is based on time.
Now that we were talking about time, I would like to ask you about the idea of nature, which is something that also appears in your movies very often. I mean, I think that it is something that I guess it could be related with cinema too, as like um, like time. But in your movies, especially, there is something particular around nature. In this case, especially with the idea of the sea, the swamp, the salt, the water.
It's not swans. It's not swans. It's pelicano. It's the pink birds. You know, how do you
Yes.
say it in English? Pelicano.
Pelicanos.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Nature. I mean, nature is very difficult to express. Let's say, because some films of mine, I don't even have. I have animals, obviously, but I don't like Woman's Revenge. But I didn't need to go into the thing, into the field near the sea or below the tree, or I really wanted the opposite, which is a studio where everything is fake on paper and painted, and except animals, and even like that, I cut a tree and I put the tree in the studio to mix with. But what I mean, when you want to capture something you find very beautiful in nature, a flower, a butterfly, sunset, it's flat, it's nothing. You take the photograph, and I don't like that very much. It's so far away from what it is. And besides, the colors become very different, aggressive, and photographic colors, you know. And when you feel nature, sometimes it's impossible not to, like o som da terra a tremer. It was really coming out from organic things, but it's you have to approach it and with a feeling that you are making already an interpretation of this. If you want to capture it as it is, it's no good. But maybe if you twist it a little bit, or if you cheat a little bit, or if you want to try to understand it a little bit, even if it's an open field, you can always try to make it possible for you as a frame, as a picture.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
it's difficult to capture or to give through images.
Yes.
It's very curious.
When you say that, how do you work with the process of writing? I mean, when you decide to film this, as you are saying, that nature somehow is difficult to portray, right? How do you work with the process of writing? I mean, how is the script of a film like this, which is somehow, somehow it is built by the oscillation between Alberto's world and the story that he's writing, but at the same time we have like this freedom between all these images and this portrait of the sea and all this universe from Luciano. How do you work with the writing of a movie like this?
Well, it's always different. In that case, it's always different. And it's always, for me, a difficult part of the job. Because I'm not a writer. I don't write so well. They say I do, but I know I don't. It's very difficult for me. Doesn't mean that I don't get there, but it's a very difficult thing to write. for each sentence I lose like weeks to find the right thing. I always doubt if it's really the best thing. So in this case, Som da Terra a Temer, it took like years before I could make the film. It's my first film, and I tried like to get money for I don't know 8, 9, 10 times, and I made it with a very, very, very small budget. That was the only possibility. So this waiting time again, was interfering with the film. I changed this. I did not stop working the script all this time long. So in the end, when finally I was able to do the film, I had lots of ideas that came and interfered and And the problem there was to keep just what was needed in the film. And there are different fountains or origins of this film. Also, the Wakefield, the tale of the man that goes out to buy something and never comes back, and because he wants to know what happens if I disappear, what happens in the world. So I took it a little bit in the film. There is André. There are lots of things that were in my personal thing, where somehow they could live together, all these ideas. Mm-hmm. It's a bit but I like that freedom, you know. I like to work in let's be a little bit crazy somehow. It's I don't know, it's a film for me like that. I should see it again. But it's funny, João César Monteiro, that is a person that I listened to. He was a guy that was correct one, and he has his ideas, and he says about this film, was the first time he sees the film, and sometimes he may be terrible and cruel, and he said, you have to make another. So your film has the best and the worst, and I think this is a beautiful compliment. I said, he has the best and the worst. I said, okay.
Yeah. I think I read that somewhere. I don't know if it was in the Lumiere article that they wrote about you. I heard that.
I'm curious because everybody talks about this thing, and I never read it. So if you have, you should send it to me.
It's very good. It's very nice.
Oh, please send it to me. Okay. So, but I didn't know I interrupted you, and I didn't know the question was.
No, what you just said. How do you work with the idea?
How you write the script?
How do you write the script?
From film to film, you know. Some subjects require a long time of preparation and reading, and others are different. And for instance, I made a film which I had no script at all, no script.
Yes.
It was correspondences. Obviously, I have the text, I have the letters, I have the poems, I have the words. But I didn't have the script. So.
Yeah, that is something that I would like to ask you then. But now that you were talking about João César Monteiro, I would like to ask you about another presence, which is João Bernardo da Costa. Bernard da Costa, yes.
It's the French name, Bernard.
Bernard.
Okay.
I would love to know how to pronounce
his grandfather was French. So that's why the Bernard came to Portugal. Okay.
No, I would like to ask you, I mean, he has this present in this man that appears there in the movies like a mysterious man. And I think that somehow the character that he's playing somehow is the one that links both stories, the one from
Yeah.
Alberto and the one from Luciano. I mean, when he gives this little book to Alberto. But anyways, I would like to ask you about him, about the relation he had in your idea about cinema and in this movie in particular.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, João Bernardo Costa was a person with whom I spent the best times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Great friend, and we were both loving very much cinema, so it was the perfect thing.
Mm-hmm.
We could speak about one film for hours and going to have dinner and so. And even when I was willing to make this first film, he knew about, and he had read the script. So it was natural. It's very natural for me. And I think he has, you know, João has one facet, one side of being a lovable storyteller. He was the kind of person that starts to tell stories and it really gathers everyone. When he was presenting a film, he was the director of the Cinematográficas Portuguesa, and he was being in the cinema department in Gulbenkian. And each time he comes to present a film, he makes it in a way that it's impossible, you don't want to see the film immediately, you start liking the film, you know, contagious and very funny and very intelligent. So he's not an actor, but I don't, that's why, but I don't even remember what was the question. It was connected to João César Monteiro and him and
no, but
there was something you said. I wanted to say something, but I forgot.
Yes. No, it was just this question about him. I mean, we have like a special feeling for Portuguese cinema, and I think that he is like an important person on your scene.
It's more than important. I think it's fundamental for even in the. I mean, you should understand. In Lisbon, those times there was not much to see, and when they organized in the 80s, after the revolution, all these huge cinema cycles in Lisbon, like 3 sessions a day, all sold out, 1,200 places, queuing up. It was really, could not happen today, not even in festivals. But lots of people start watching cinema, choose cinema, because they were there and they could see these huge retrospectives on Bresson, Truffaut, Hitchcock, you know.
Yes.
So he really, besides the personal attachment that I may have, I hear a lot to say. If it was not João Bernardo Costa, I would not like cinema as I do, or I would not have come to chosen cinema. He was, so yeah.
Yes. And now that you are talking about Cinemateca Portuguesa, I would like to ask you how do you combine your work in Cinemateca and with the task of making movies? How do you combine both worlds?
Okay, it's how would you do it? How would you do it? I mean, you have to sometimes say, I cannot now, I take holidays to when I need more time. Sometimes I use my holidays. Sometimes I take a license with no subvention. So they allowed me to 1 month. I don't go there, but I don't get paid. It's okay. I mean, you try to compensate both things. Obviously, it's very difficult, and you always feel a bit like a traitor. You have to say goodbye to lovers. So one is winning all the time, which is the cinema.
but I think that they are both.
They both know they exist, so I think I'm not betraying anything.
But I think that this relation between being working all the time with movies from others and then take your time to work on your own movies, I think that that combination, apart from being difficult, I think that it should be interesting, and I think somehow and
yeah. I don't know if it's ideal, but it's possible.
Rita, just to finish, I would like to ask you, how do you think that your ideas around cinema has changed since this first movie until now that you just released your film number 9, number 10?
How do I think the Som da Terra Tremer changed my...
No, your own ideas are around cinema since this very first in this first movie. Now that you have made like 9 more movies, I mean, how do you think that your ideas from that moment has changed now that you have like a whole experience around cinema?
Well, you know, when I made this first film, I didn't know anything about cinema in the way of cinema making, how it was fabric built it. So my idea is that from that point on, I learned a lot with this first film. Mainly some things that I kept on is never give up. And you can always do something. Always. Out of shit, you can do something. I had that thing in the first film, and I had it each film I make. There is also this day while you are shooting where everything cracks and everything breaks, and what you want to film is not there anymore. Mm-hmm. So what do? You say, I can't film, and you stop, and you go home and think. I think it never happened with me. I always tried to save the situation, you know. And it, in Som da Terra Tremer, the first day I filmed, it was my baptism, and it happened. Mm-hmm. My first day of shooting, I have these 2 Navy ships that I got. I had fought so much to have permission. They offered me. They didn't pay. They didn't make me pay, nor the marine thing, military, blah, blah. So I had these 2 ships with 115 sailors each, professional, military, and we, the team. And it was foreseen in the script. We go back to the script. A blue summer day, the ocean is blue and the sky and the sun is shining. And it was in that particular day, we were in summer, okay, but it was like a storm. So I could not see the bridge over Lisbon. We were leaving the river Tejo a little bit far to the ocean. We could not see Lisbon. It was foggy, black. And all the crew in the ship was seasick. After midday, they could not stand anymore. They were vomiting. They were really sick. Except 3 people, me, the captain, and the guy that made the sound. Acasio was terribly ill. The actor was ill. So I would not have these ships again in my life. So what do? It's impossible, you cannot film. And then I had this kind of, bring me an apple, and I made and it was much better. That everything I had foreseen before. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I put the actor with the back turned to the camera because he's really green. He's so sick, poor guy. And Miguel was throwing out, and I said, okay, if it throws out, the wind will take it and the camera will not catch it. So I put it in a position where it's terrible. So I learned cinema is very cruel. And it's always a big risk, and it's always, maybe that's the part I like the most. It's very, so it happened in each film, these kind of situations. And I use that as a reference to my work. Each film, it's a bit more. It's always the first, but it's a bit more. I have already tried things and made me a little thing, or I have experimented it. I have, so it goes. It's like if you decide you become a gardener, little by little, you try to understand about what you are doing. And experiment is my element.
Okay. Okay, Rita. So thank you very, very much for your time and for sharing this wonderful.
I hope to meet you again, Maria, but in open air.
Well, yes. It would be wonderful if you could be here in Cordoba one day.
I never went to Cordoba, but that will happen maybe in the next life or something, or in a film. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rita.
Bye, Maria.